On the final day of the June 2024 Steam Next Fest, I had time for one last game demo, and I decided to try Creatures of Ava. The game trailer captured my attention with an appealing mixture of collecting adorable creatures, exploring a beautiful alien planet teeming with life, and a dash of zest with battling an infection that was consuming the planet. Could Creatures of Ava join the ranks of games like Slime Rancher and Pal World, cracking the elusive formula of just the right amounts of cozy aesthetics and cute creatures sprinkled with a bit of challenging action to keep players motivated? Surely not. I mean, I hadn't even heard of this game until a viewer happened to mention it. Well, let's just say that I set aside 30 minutes to try Creatures of Ava, ended 3 hours later with the demo complete, and I wanted more. There are so many things Creatures of Ava does well, but there's one major aspect of the game that I think has to change before launch. If you've never heard of Creatures of Ava, it's an adventure game that's also part creature collector or creature saver. You've been sent to the planet of Ava because there is a mysterious infection called the Withering that's taking over the ecosystem and sickening the animals. You must figure out how to cleanse, tame, and rescue over 20 creatures before they are consumed by the infection. And along the way, you'll meet the Nom people and try to earn their trust, as well as figure out what they aren't telling you about the infection that threatens their planet. The first thing Creatures of Ava did right was to completely capture my attention during the opening minutes of the game with an engaging cinematic of my space pod crash landing onto Ava, where I began my role as Vic, a 22-year-old nature explorer with a delightfully sassy attitude. The planet Ava is simply stunning, and as I began my first quest of seeking higher ground in hopes of finding a radio signal, I was in awe of the beautiful landscape, the waterfalls, plants I could collect, and very soon, my first creature, which I apparently need to photograph and study. Aside from the quests, the tutorial explained the gameplay mechanics, important creature and item information found on my tablet, and then I met Nimar, a very kind archaeologist who helped me learn how to use the Naphatar, a powerful staff that can cleanse the Withering from creatures and passages. I discovered that in order to cleanse the creatures, however, there is a bit of battle involved, and it took me quite a while to get the hang of it, but more on that later. So unlike a lot of games, the Creatures of Ava tutorial and the story beginning was incredibly engaging and had just the right amount of support and guidance to alleviate confusion. I'm normally bored with the dialogue and storylines in games, but I was totally hooked, wanting to know more and to find and rescue the creatures. From there, Namar took me to see the village chief Han Lo, who clearly did not like humans and perplexed me by stating that their planet didn't need saved. And then I set off to find an old base that was long abandoned by my people who had been to Ava many years ago. The blending of an ancient civilization who clearly were in harmony and at peace with their planet, and the technology of the zip lines, portals, and rescue bots of my people was simply fascinating, and I was so curious to see how these seemingly contradictory groups were going to mix or part ways. And then there are the Creatures of Ava, who are everywhere. Some are tame and pettable right away, you can even hug them. Others are infected and needed their withering absorbed by my magical staff through combat. And then they turn into wild creatures, which I tamed with my magical flute, and then led to rescue bots that beamed them up to the rescue ships. Oh, but it gets better. Once I tamed the creatures, I could also choose to connect with them and use their attacks and special abilities to help unblock pathways and discover secret items. It was pretty spectacular, but I couldn't help but wonder if I was really rescuing them by collecting quotas of each species like Noah's Ark from the various biomes of Ava. Do they really want to leave their homes? Or is there another way I can help discover and solve the root of the Withering infection on Ava? In addition to the exciting story, exploration, and rescuing of creatures, there's also crafting, and I only scratched the surface with the healing brew that I created, and there are also power-up drinks, antidotes, immunizing agents, and lots of recipes I had yet to discover. And as you progress, discover, and gain experience, you can unlock new perks through the game's skill tree, which can boost your combat skills, health, and much more. Normally, after 3 hours of a game, I have a hefty handful of wishlist items I would like to change. But as I mentioned earlier, there's really just one prominent aspect I think Creatures of Ava needs to adjust: the combat. Now, I may be old and have slow reaction time, but I do play games like Fortnite, Overwatch, and Call of Duty, and gosh darn it, the combat in Creatures of Ava was unexpectedly stressful. The toughest part was when I had multiple creatures to cure and no rocks to stand on for protection. By the time I evaded the first creature's attack, the second was gnawing on my legs. I got damaged while trying to drink my healing brew because I never learned to chug a beer, and it takes forever to absorb the infection. And when I died, I had to start all over fighting those same creatures. I nearly quit after the battle in the tutorial, so I can only imagine how pure cozy gamers would feel with such intense fighting. In my opinion, Creatures of Ava needs to follow suit of similar games like Slime Rancher and Pal World, and at least add combat options, or what I like to call cozy settings, for little old ladies like myself. Creatures of Ava is set to release in 2024 on PC, Xbox, and Game Pass, and I am astounded by how polished the game is already, and I have no doubt it will have a bright future with cozy gamers and mild adventure seekers who like relaxing games with a bit of a challenge. Creatures of Ava has a fascinating storyline, a beautiful aesthetic thanks to the gorgeous graphics and relaxing music, and it ignites a passion for trying to understand and save the creatures of planet Ava. But my hypothesis is that the storyline will take a twist. Vic has a pure heart, and she wants to discover the mysteries of the infection and prove to the non-inhabitants that humans can be helpful. I predict that Vic will eventually diverge from her mission of removing a select few creatures to safety in search of a way to stop the problem at its source. Gosh, I think this is the first I have ever spent time speculating about the storyline of a game. Because the stories, quite frankly, are often dull, beaten-to-death cliche plots that I couldn't care less about. But Creatures of Ava is different. And that, my friends, is the tale of Creatures of Ava, my favorite game from the June 2024 Steam Next Fest. It's at the top of my upcoming games wishlist, and I can't wait to discover more of the story and bond with all of Ava's creatures. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Creatures of Ava. Consider dropping a like if you enjoyed this video, and I thank you for watching.